Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to a special interview here with Heidi and Rachel. And we're going to be talking a little bit about our film, Black Holler. So, I want to give each of you a chance to introduce yourselves before I start jumping into the questions. So, Heidi, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. Thanks, Shane. My name's Heidi Ervin. I am co-writer and producer, and I am featured in Black Holler.
And Rachel.
Rachel Ward Heggen, and I'm everything that Heidi said, except not as beautiful.
Oh.
Look at that hair, looking good.
Oh my gosh.
Starting off on a right note here. So now I always like to ask, because, obviously films are a big undertaking and involve a lot of different people. I always like to ask how everybody gets involved in their projects. So I guess, Heidi, if you'd like to go first. So how did this film come about in your involvement?
Yeah, Rachel and I went to college together at MTSU. And we kind of reconnected in Nashville years later. And we were big fans of this cult fiction underground scene where it was kind of like a little bit of a underground kind of watching movies, watching The Walking Dead with friends in a kind of small basement-like setting, but it was an actual public place in Nashville. And we kind of just started talking about how, maybe one day we'll write a horror movie together. And we've done some kind of small scale productions together, theater kind of stuff, and had a kind of a crew, a group of people that we'd worked with before and had done kind of like short films with people before too. And Rachel, was coming from the communications background and knew a lot of people who could help behind the scenes too. So we just started talking about what we could possibly do together, and Black Holler came from that.
There you go. And Rachel, do you want to add anything to Heidi's answer?
Yeah, Heidi pretty much summed it up. I do remember a time we were sitting on a back patio and we decided this is what we want to do, and we're like, wow, this is going to be a lot of work.
Yeah,
but it was also a lot of fun. So yeah, Black Holler was born.
And obviously it's like you could do things with friends, it makes it that much better, right? So in terms of obviously it's like this kind of came about together. What were some of the inspirations? Maybe if there was particular films you were drawing upon or specific ideas that kind of went into the creation of Black Holler.
You want to take this, Heidi? We were just chatting about this. Well, for me, one of the first movies that I saw as a kid was Sleepaway Camp. And I'm not saying it was a great movie, but I enjoyed it. And, Heidi and I, we both love like the slasher genre. We grew up watching Nightmare on Elm Street, those things. And we were just talking about how we love the movie Scream. That was kind of during our, like, I don't know, coming of age. Yeah, what else do you want to say about that, Heidi?
Yeah, we definitely were interested in like an 80s slasher if we were going to make a horror movie, and kind of working with a small budget. And being like kind of silly people, we were like gonna lean into the horror comedy arena too. So we just kind of were like, we'll make an 80s slasher kind of parody. And the kind of twists that we pretty much right off the bat we're thinking about was that you never really see like a Black female lead in the like 80s slashers. So it was just made sense to kind of do something everybody kind of knew, but have a little bit of a twist on it. And we've been working with Tamiko Robinson Steele for years, and wanted to give her a chance to be the lead of a movie too. So really, we were the lucky ones, of course, to land someone so talented, but it was kind of cool to get to work with her and kind of give her a really cool, showcase kind of role.
Awesome. And that's always a fun thing in terms of like drawing upon some of your early inspirations. I know my brother has always been a huge slasher fan, and I remember always him having like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th on like every Halloween. And I know, especially like having grown up like in the 90s and into the early 2000s, Scream was a big thing. And like even like Scary Movie spinning off of Scream was a big thing as well. And it's an interesting time for slashers, and they're all still floating around. New Halloween, new Scream film, and now hopefully people will check out Black Holler and have a lot of fun with it. So now, what did you each enjoy most about making this film?
What is it you always say, Heidi? The best part's at creation.
we
and then the hard work begins.
we really had fun writing it, definitely. But it was great to get to work with our friends.
Yeah.
And for me, also my family, because my brother's in the movie, and he, wrote
did all the music,
performed the soundtrack too. So that it was a great like community to be around for a very long time. But it was very trying because we were in many locations over a long period of time. So, but
and it was summertime. It was summertime in Tennessee in like the month of July. If we had to do it over, maybe we would have chosen a cooler month. But yeah, I agree 100% with what Heidi said. It was the people that we got to work with every day.
And obviously, it's like, I think any kind of job, it's the people that you work with that really make the job. Obviously, you could love what you do, and if the people that you deal with on a daily basis don't make you happy, then you're going to have a hard time actually enjoying what you're doing. But that's always something special, being able to work with people that you really care about and being part of that creative process. And like, I know it's always fun when you could let those creative juices flow. So I'm sure it was a lot of fun putting this together. Now, I always like to ask, and obviously it's like you're both very invested in the film, and what's that one thing? What's the one reason why people should go check out Black Holler?
I would definitely say that you will be entertained. That's something when we watched when we had the premiere at the Belcourt in Nashville, getting to sit back and watch people's faces, how they would respond. Like sometimes it was good, sometimes it was bad, but like overall it seemed like people were entertained. And so I definitely feel like someone who is looking for a night to chill on their couch and just escape to the world of Black Holler and be entertained, you definitely will.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's honestly kind of a wild ride. Like, I think that once you kind of get in there, it gets going, and then it's kind of like, this is pretty cool. I think it's surprisingly fun and entertaining, especially for the extremely low budget we were working with. Because I think the cast is very invested and like really game, and they're all fun to watch. And I think it's 80s, it's silly, it doesn't take itself too seriously, it's just a fun time. So if that kind of movie is something you like, it's definitely worth checking out.
And having gotten a chance to check out the film before the interview, it's definitely one of those kinds of things where it would have been really fun to watch with a group of people.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like I was sitting by myself, like in my living room watching this, and I'm just like, it's one of those kinds of things where it's like feeding off that energy of everybody. It would have been a really fun time. So I really hope that if it's something where it's just like they get the opportunity to watch it in like maybe a small theater with a bunch of people, or have a bunch of people over and have a good time and
Have a mixed
enjoy
party.
exactly have a Black Holler party. It's the post Halloween kind of, have some scares before Thanksgiving and Christmas come around. So it's never too late. And so definitely something a lot of fun to have. Now, obviously, we talked a little bit about the film specifically in your experiences, but I always like to get to know my guests as well a little bit. So I have a couple of questions that might not be specifically Black Holler related. I always love to ask, which I think for a lot of people, this is the kind of thing where it's just like, you might have an answer and you have a very strong answer. You hate this question, but what is your favorite film, both of you? Maybe Heidi, if you want to go first, what's your favorite film?
Wow, I don't think I have a favorite film, but I will say that something that's really unique to me is that I love the Chucky series.
Okay.
And I actually my favorites are The Bride of Chucky and The Seed of Chucky. I just think that it's fun. I love Jennifer Tilly. So I think that like definitely informs like some of my like sense of humor and kind of just like taste level not being that high, but being very specific.
But Child's Play is one of those kinds of things where it's like it's such an interesting idea, like having like a serial killer trapped in the body of a small toy. And I think especially with the sequels, they really were like, this has a lot of potential here, we're gonna really lean into this and just have a lot of fun with it. So
what a gold mine, the killer doll. I love it. But I have in my past like definitely leaned into like the Charlie Kaufman, his screenplays that turned into movies. But honestly, really, I will also have to give a shout out to Christopher Guest movies, Best in Show, Waiting for Guffman. I also have to say those are like definitely top movies for me. And I have a Spinal Tap themed tattoo because
very nice.
Yeah, because I was just like, that's something I don't mind having on me forever.
I remember watching Best in Show for the first time, and just I'm more of a cat person than a dog person, but people who love their animals, and watching a film like that and just seeing like, oh, I could definitely see these people happening and just caring way too much about their animals and way too much about this. And when Fred Willard gives the most amazing commentary for a competition ever. So there you go.
R.I.P.
Yep.
How about you? Absolutely. How about you, Rachel?
Well, definitely, I do love the Kaufman movies as well. They're so weird, but I love them. And they're usually movies that I'm entertained. Keeps my attention. I'll be honest. I do love was Edgar Wright. He has something on out. Just Shaun of the Dead. All those. Yeah, definitely a fave. If we're going old school, Heidi. As a little girl, I always wanted to be Elizabeth Shue and Adventures in Babysitting. That one's always been wouldn't say it's a great movie, but I liked it.
Yeah, it's like means something to you.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of those films. It's like the 80s were a very particular time and really channeled a vibe and a feeling and an energy about them. And that's definitely one of those films that like really captures that 80s energy. And it's just like you plop it in and you're in the 80s right now.
Yeah. Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember my mom would get so pissed because I would not go to sleep. I was like, my stomach hurts. It's Freddy. Still, I do love some Robert Englund.
There you go. Now, this is also another question I always love to ask because, I think everybody has a very unique kind of journey into getting involved in film. And so, when was that like moment or that time that helped each of you realize it's like, this is something I really wanted to do? Like, actually go forward with this and do something in film?
I'm a theater kid, and so I always kind of was a little jealous of films, especially after having like a really great show. Like,
Mhm.
dang it, only a certain amount of people saw that. And so I've always been kind of intrigued with like film is forever, kind
Mhm.
of that whole like leaving a legacy thing, maybe. So I think like I do think that's part of it, like just like it's so much work, but it'll exist, forever, for better or worse, And with Black Holler, I'm still very proud of the movie. But I do think that's part of the thing that's so cool about it is just, yeah, just that it's, you know, seeing like especially during the pandemic, like live shows kind
Mhm.
of stopping or having to change. It's just sort of like, everybody was watching TV, everybody was watching movies, and I think that it's just feels so accessible to everybody.
And I appreciate that answer a lot, especially because, like, thinking about the pandemic, and honestly, like, during all this time, it gave me an opportunity to really check out a lot of, like, smaller films that probably would not have actually seen.
Yeah.
And that shift to, like, VOD and actually seeing a lot of films that don't unfortunately get that opportunity to be out there in a theater all across the country and being able a chance to see some of these films that have smaller budgets, don't have the money to be like cast out into like 3,000 theaters across the country. And I definitely like I found my way into working with Scare Magazine because of all of this, and it's been a lot of fun and getting a chance to see films like this, so I could definitely appreciate that. Now, how about you, Rachel?
Sorry, I zoned out thinking about what Heidi was saying. Um, what was the question again?
Yeah, so like what was that point that you realized like this is
Oh,
what you really wanted to do, like getting into film?
I think as a child growing up in a small town where there was absolutely nothing to do, I watched a lot of movies. And then when my mom would be like, "You've got to get out of the house," I would go and try to recreate those scenes outside. Like I would run to my mailbox to get the mail and pretend like someone was chasing me, you know, things like that. But, and, definitely theater in Murfreesboro. And honestly, we're lucky, Heidi, that we met a good group of people. Like we just were there at the right time where there was a lot of people doing a lot of the same things that we were interested in.
Yeah.
And so having those friends and those relationships and networking really helped. But yeah, definitely after, I mean, yes, it was hard and a lot of fun, but definitely since doing Black Holler and like Heidi said, very proud of it, I definitely felt like I want to do more.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Maybe
And
not the whole thing.
and that's really awesome too. And hopefully both of you get to continue to, get out there and perform and create and everything. Because that's exciting, and being able to chase a dream like that is something really special. And I always like to take this back because, like, obviously, like talking about what were some of the influences that you have. Like, I think a lot of us can go back to thinking about like an early movie that we watched or something that really inspired us. And what's your earliest, fondest memory of going to the movies?
You have one, Rachel?
I do. I remember my cousin's mom packing us up in their minivan and taking us to see the Joss Whedon Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Luke Perry.
Uh-huh.
I think Joss Whedon doesn't like that. movie. But yeah, that was probably one of my first times, I believe, going to the movie theater, especially without my parents.
Gotcha.
What about you, Heidi?
I'm going to give a shout out to Titanic. Because at the time, Titanic was like, maybe, your parents would drop you off. And, you could see this big budget movie and Leonardo DiCaprio and I don't know. I think that was a big one. Yeah. Also, like, I remember it probably inspired me to play the flute because of the like part, and my heart will go on. I was like, that was really impactful. Oh wait, I have a better answer. Home Alone.
Yes.
Home Alone. I definitely saw it with my family, but I remember it being like, that was the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, Kevin has the coolest life, just like seeing Die Hard, but a kid, I loved that.
Yeah.
Loved Home Alone.
Wanted to be in a room when they greenlit that movie to like, just imagine Die Hard, except making a kid stuck at home by himself. And,
Amazing.
That became such a humongous hit. And obviously it's like a seminal holiday film to watch, and watching a kid taking it to a couple of criminals and without any sense of like, these men are probably gonna maybe die because all the horror.
I think I heard they're wanting to remake it.
I know it's interesting. They have a sequel. I don't know. They have a new Home Alone coming out on Disney Plus in the next couple weeks. So I'm like, well, keep making them.
Yeah.
People are gonna watch them.
Yeah.
So there you go. Now, I always like to wrap up with this specific question because, putting so much effort into a film, obviously, it's like you have to have a passion for it, right? And what do you both love most about movies?
I think what I love most about movies is it gives me a way to escape.
Mm-hmm.
To like a different, a different story, I think is pretty much it. Something where you can, it helps you escape and you get to be entertained. You get to take your mind off paying your bills for an hour and 40 minutes.
There you go.
What about you?
I agree, Rachel. It's totally the escape. I definitely have like gone through like phases of depression where I'll be like, I'm gonna watch Anchorman every morning just to get myself in a good mood, where it's just like it lifts your mood, changes your surroundings. I love watching movies with friends and family, and just kind of experiencing like, what is this like to be on this journey with the people around me.
Heidi was talking about the Cult Fiction Underground theater that was like this basement. We would go watch Walking Dead, and it was a wonderful place. And rented it out for my birthday one year, and we watched Sleepaway Camp. So you get to watch Sleepaway Camp with all your friends.
Yeah,
that's the best.
Really fun. Yeah,
you get to do that.
That's really awesome. And when you could have special moments like that. And honestly, that was definitely one of the things during the pandemic, like sitting there thinking about, it's like, I miss all those times going to actual like theater and sitting there and, interacting with the film with a whole theater full of people and having those kind of special moments. But Heidi could definitely relate with the that Anchorman energy, trying to get out of your glass box of emotions.
I know. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was one of my go-tos. It seems like a sad story that I need to watch movies every morning, but it's not that bad.
No.
Hey,
I did that with Superbad too for a little while. So
that's a good one.
Mood, Yeah.
I think a lot of people would be a lot happier if they had the time to watch a movie every morning.
Oh no, I just like stopped it and would watch. I just watched
just
it like while I was
scenes.
getting ready. I mean, it was just playing in the background because I was just like, you never know if you turn on the news if it's going to put you in a bad mood, but I just never got sick of watching Anchorman. Like,
I don't blame you.
yeah.
But I appreciate both of you coming on and getting a chance to chat about Black Holler, and also getting to learn about each of you a little bit in your film perspectives as well. So Heidi and Rachel, thank you so much for your time coming on here. And hopefully all of you out there go check out Black Holler when this comes out on VOD on November 16th. So spend some time, have some fun, and enjoy this little film.
Yeah.
So
have a good night, Shane. Thank you.
thank you both.